now to the Liberal Senator James Paterson and Labor MP Josh Burns. Josh Burns, this has been quite a week for your party, but particularly your branch of the party. How are you holding up, particularly in the context of, suggestions that Adam Somyurek was one of your backers in the seat?
I appreciate you asking, KG, but look, it has been a tough week for the true believers of the Australian Labor Party, and I know that many people watching at home on Sunday night who have given up hours for our political movement, who have given up their time and effort and dedication to help elect Labor governments and to help elect me in Macnamara. It's pretty hard. It was pretty hard to watch, but what's been happening since has been decisive. It's been pretty extraordinary, and the leadership shown by Daniel Andrews and Anthony Albanese to appoint administrators is tough, but it's the right thing to do. And this is something that we need to get right. We need to get it right for the Parliamentary Labor Party. We need to get it right for the people and the members of our Labor Party, but most of all, we need to get it right for the people that we seek to represent and the people that we want to do our best for in this place and in parliaments across the country.
Well, he basically, that individual, boasted about his, power to put people into seats and so on. Did you ever feel uncomfortable with the authority that he claimed to have wielded when he was not just a member of the party, but a Victorian minister?
Look, I think personally I can say, Kieran, that I was elected and was pre-selected on my own merit, and I am so grateful for the people who helped elect me and the people who helped me on my journey. I think that what is apparent in this whole saga is that the conduct of the people who were mentioned and who were filmed in the 60 Minutes production on Sunday night is completely unacceptable, and they have no place in our party. And the leadership of Daniel Andrews and Anthony Albanese to deal with this, to deal with it seriously and properly and totally, is something that we need in our party. We need to get this right. We need to make sure that people have confidence in the Australian Labor Party, because we are the movement for progressive change in this country. We are seeking to be the alternative government in this country. It is something that I know I personally take hugely, it's something I feel a huge sense of responsibility with, and something I'm very passionate about, as many of my colleagues are up here. And I know that Anthony Albanese has a true sense of what it is to be an Australian Labor Party member, and that's someone that fights for the people that he seeks to represent, as we all do.
Senator Paterson, for the government, for the Prime Minister down, it's basically trying to keep out of the way of the Labor Party at the moment, let them cause their own dramas. It's dominating the news enough.
I guess so, Kieran, and I have to say I'm finding it very strange that Anthony Albanese, 3 days on, still hasn't picked up the phone to Anthony Burns, still hasn't sent him a text to say, hey mate, how did that all go down? I can tell you here in Canberra, every Labor MP is absolutely obsessed with wanting to know exactly what happened and how it happened, except apparently Anthony Albanese. He's got no curiosity at all at what happened there in the electorate office in Holt.
Senator Paterson, I spoke to Andrew Hastie a bit earlier about his colleague on the Intelligence Committee, defends Anthony Byrne as an individual, as a man, and his role on that committee is well respected, I think, within the government. But do you have questions as to how that image, those images, that footage, that covert information was obtained, Senator?
I don't know Anthony Byrne as well as Andrew Hastie does, but Andrew Hastie is a colleague that I put great faith and trust in, and if he thinks Anthony Byrne is an upstanding member of the Parliament, then I trust his judgment. What I do think is unusual here is Anthony Albanese's behaviour. He is the leader of the Labor Party, he's the one who's proposed this intervention, and yet a key fact in how this intervention came about, a key fact in setting this story up, he's inquired into not one bit, not at all, and he's using a very flimsy excuse that there might possibly be some investigation and he might be overstepping that. There's nothing to stop him asking Anthony Byrne for the explanation that I think everyone in the Labor Party wants to hear.
It would
KG,
be
if I can,
Anthony Albanese's favour, his advantage, wouldn't it, Josh Burns, if Anthony Byrne made a full, clear statement as to what went on?
Well, I think James needs to be very careful about what he just said, because it's not that there might be an investigation. There is an investigation. This is being investigated by the Victoria Police and by IBAC. They are not two bodies to be dismissed, and I'm sure James wouldn't intend to do that. And I think that we need to let those bodies do their work. As a side note, I would say that Anthony Byrne has served the people of Holt for many years, and I know he's done it with a lot of dedication and care for his local community. And Andrew Hastie makes the point that the intelligence community holds him in high regard, and I think that that's a point well made.
But Josh Burns, don't you think it's fair for some people to be raising questions as to the nature of the information, as to how it was obtained and that sort of thing?
Absolutely, and the appropriate people for those questions to be asked by are the two bodies that are doing that exact investigation, which is the Victoria Police and the IBAC.
Senator Paterson, it was a very strong speech from Foreign Minister PAYNE last night. Are you concerned in any way? Obviously, you, along with Mr Hastie, were denied travel to China in the last 12 months or so, and we know that they've been much more assertive in terms of their foreign policy, even in the face of the global pandemic. But are you concerned in any way that this might be counterproductive, that it might exacerbate the situation?
No, Kieran, I'm not. It was a very substantial speech. It was a very important speech, but it was also a very thoughtful speech, a really balanced speech that was assertive about Australia's national interests and assertive about our values, and balanced that against the respect that we have for the sovereignty of other countries. I thought the most important thing about Maurice Payne's speech last night was the thread that you can draw between Scott Morrison's speech last year to the Lowy Institute, the recent events with COVID-19 and Maurice Payne's speech. Scott Morrison outlined the critique of multilateral institutions, and that looks very prescient given the failure of the World Health Organization. And Maurice Payne has outlined the answer to that problem, which is constructive Australian engagement in those institutions to try and reform them to ensure that they do support our national interest and they do better reflect our values. So I think she really tied together a very important period in our history and our foreign policy.
Josh Burns, your thoughts on where that's at? Because obviously we've had some difficulties with that China relationship, but we're not the only country facing those tensions. There are many other nations. And as I mentioned earlier to Greg Sheridan, the clashes with India show things are a lot worse with some nations than others.
Well, James immediately jumped on the defence then, because the Foreign Minister's speech last night was pretty starkly contrasted with the Prime Minister's comments in the House of Representatives. On one hand, the Foreign Minister made a very appropriate speech about Australia working with multilateral organisations and with the international community to exert our own national interests. And what the Prime Minister did was wave around his hands in the House of Representatives talking about negative globalism. And I think that it is finally, the government is following the lead of the Australian Labor Party of re-engaging with the international community, of ensuring that Australia's national interests are asserted in the international community through cooperation, through working together with other like-minded countries on issues that matter to Australians and to the Australians who are the government seeks to represent.
Senator Paterson, your response?
I'm sure Maurice Payne will be very relieved to know she has the very coveted Josh Burns endorsement of her speech last night. I'm sure she'll be very proud of that. Of course, Maurice Payne speaks in concert with, I'm sure, and Maurice Payne speaks in concert with the Prime Minister. And as I said, he was very prescient. Negative globalism is when multilateral institutions like the World Health Organization fail. And they clearly have not performed as well as they should have in this crisis. And the answer to that is Australia needs to roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty and help reform those institutions. And we can do that in a way that protects our national interest, and that allows us to combat the negative aspects of globalism when it fails. So I think it's very clearly and logically connected.
All right. Yes, let's take a break. Gentlemen, thank you as always. Good to chat across a range of issues from local to the region. Josh Burns, Senator Paterson, appreciate it. After the break, I'll be